Hey, this has been with Pro Sound TV, NAMM 2010. We're here with another one of our artists, Joe Cefalu. Well, tell us a little bit about the new CD and what you used on it.
Well, the CD is it's from last year, but mostly used the BB preamp with a couple different amps. And I found that pretty much no matter what I used it with, it really kind of retains the characteristic of that amp and that guitar. So unlike a lot of other boxes that have their own sound, and that's cool if you want something that's, you know, real specialized.
Yeah.
I found that the Xotic stuff, the AC, the BB, it's pretty much that same guitar and that same amp. It just kind of gives it more what you want. Doesn't really color it to a degree where it's the guitar becomes kind of homogenized.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about it. So you can kind of get it to always work pretty much in any situation. I find that even the BB, even though it's the dirtier of the boxes, I can still get a pretty good clean boost out of it.
Yeah.
And just by using a volume control on the guitar, get a lot of variation,
yeah.
A lot of variety.
Well, we want to wish you the best of success in
you.
2010. We really appreciate being part of our Xotic family. One thing I wanted to transition into is, you know, a couple years back, I noticed you in the one of the guitar player competitions. Saw you on the internet, and there are two pretty cool techniques that I think, you know, anybody of any style or experience would appreciate. One is the hopscotch technique.
The hopscotch is just I'm sure other guys have done it. I just ended up using it a lot when in private lessons. And when I was a kid learning how to play the guitar, the thing that always baffled me was to watch a guy start at the first fret and then work his way all the way up the neck, you know. And I knew that you can always learn scales in little boxes. Could be any type of scale. As a kid, I didn't really see the fingerboard as one big channel, one big line. So the hopscotch is just it's a technique to practice, to link everything together. It's really simple, but people seem to like it.
So instead of being more vertical, it's linear.
I guess, yeah, you call it linear. So you think of strings in pairs rather than all 6 strings at once. And like I said, the video is just kind of a low-budget thing, but everybody likes it. It's simple, but it's effective.
Well, we're going to allow everybody to see that right now. Check it out.
This technique that I'm going to show you, I call hopscotch, and it's a routine, a practice routine that'll help you connect your shapes in a very practical way and get it so that they kind of all flow seamlessly together. Okay, so let's check it out. So let's use the minor pentatonic scales as an example. Many of you, I'm sure, have seen these before. There's 5 different fingerings for the pentatonic scale. We're playing minor pentatonic now, and the red note is the lowest minor root per shape. So let's assume you know these shapes and you're practicing them up and down the guitar. So the first thing we want to be able to do is to play these 5 shapes in one key at first, up and down the neck. Let's take G minor. Okay? So at the 3rd fret I'm playing that number 1 shape that was on the diagram. Plenty of you guys have seen this before. Okay, so there's number 1 shape, and then we move up the neck. This is the same notes in next position, shape number 2. And so on, number 3. Number 4. Number 5. And then back to number 1. Okay, so we want to make sure that we don't end up playing lead guitar box per box. In other words, play your number 1 licks, run out of ideas, and then start number 2, and so on. You want to kind of connect them seamlessly. So let's practice them using the hopscotch technique. It's going to be a 2-string at a time technique. So we're going to break up the guitar into groups of pairs of strings. So there'll be 5 pairs. So let's look at the guitar this way. E, A, D, G, B, E are your strings, considering, you know, assuming we're in standard tuning. And I want to just group them together. I want to think of them in pairs. E and A is my 1 pair. E and A, first pair. A and D, D and G, G and B, B and E. Okay, those are my pairs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to practice on those pairs of strings. 1 shape at a time, we're going to connect them together. Let's look at the left hand. Okay, so again, in the key of G minor, I'm going to play number 1 pentatonic shape. I'm only going to play the notes that are on the E string and the A string. Number 1 is this, but I'm only going to play the 2 strings E and A. That's it. So I want to be sure I know just those. 1, 4, 1, 3. Then we shoot up to number 2. Number 2 shape is, the notes are the same, G, B flat, C, D, F, all up and down the neck. But I'm just going to play number 1 on the E and the A string, number 2 on the E and the A string. So number 1, number 2, 1 and 2, okay? And then I'm going to follow up the, you know, the rest of the pair. So it'll be, next group will be A string, D string. That's number 1 shape just on the A and D strings, and number 2 just on the A and the D, and then so on. D and G, number 1, D and G, number 2, G and B, number 1, G and B, number 2, B and E, number 1, B and E, number 2. And I want to be able to play it backwards, right? I'm just playing through those shapes, up and back. So eventually, you want to connect 1 to 2, 2 connects to 3, and so on. 3 connects to 4, 4 to 5, and back to 1. So what starts to happen is you don't even see them as 2 shapes anymore. From going back and forth so much, you start to see them as 1 big shape. And that's when your ideas are going to flow more smoothly, less boxy, less stuck in 1 shape. If I'm able to play back and forth between one and the next, and I know it with my eyes closed, then it's no big deal to kind of flow through it all up and down the neck. You want to learn those shapes, all the adjacent pairs. The other technique you can try is take 1 pair of strings, say the E and the A, and play up all 5 and back, just on those pairs. So you'll start to see the neck in a different way. So I have number 1 here on the E and the A string, then number 2 on the E and the A, number 3, number 4, number 5, back to number 1. And I want to be able to get through those when I'm connecting them up and down. And then I take the next pair of strings, the A and the D, and continue up and down like that. So when you practice that way, and you see the scales not just 1 little box at a time, you start to see it as 1 big long, you know, channel of notes. As if, think of each box being a room, and by practicing this way you break down the walls and you get 1 big hallway. So you can connect from one to the next up and down. Let's do a little playing. Okay, so we're just going to do a little playing around. If I'm just in the key of G minor, I'm playing through the shapes. There's number 1 and then number 2. So if I start thinking about that hopscotch thing and thinking about the shapes as in pairs of strings, I can connect them. And then when I start playing licks,